Hello, YouTube. Been 2 weeks now since I made a video. Sorry. I'm trying to do them every week. It's been hectic past 2 weeks. So today's topic is stress. Just gonna talk about stress in general, how I handle stress, some things I've learned to help cope with stress, and how to put it in perspective. So stress, life happens. Life happens, stressful situations are gonna come your way. There's really no way to dodge them, but you can change how you react to them, because that's really all it is. Bad situations are gonna happen. There's a great quote. It says, pain is unavoidable, suffering is optional, something along those lines. And that's kind of how I view it. So let me tell you about the stress I've had these past 2 weeks. So my youngest son, we noticed he had a lump on right around his collarbone area, right around his clavicle, and it hurt when we touched it. So it was a pretty decent sized lump. So we didn't think much of it. Maybe he got bit by a bug. He's super allergic, but we couldn't see any bites or scratches. So we took him to the doctor. Doc didn't know what it was. They ran some blood work. Blood work didn't come back with anything immediately. So she wanted to send us to a specialist because it was in a really odd place. After they did an ultrasound, they did the ultrasound first, saw that it was an inflamed lymph, and in that area it's just very unique for there to be an inflamed lymph unless there is an underlying infection in that area. But since there was no visible mark or opening to where that infection could have entered to inflame the lymphs in that area, the other option, which they didn't tell us, they just said we got to go to a specialist to get it checked out further. So we ended up going to an oncologist. That was pretty freaking scary. Like, even though the possibilities were super minimal that he had cancer, just being in an oncologist's office was very stressful. And all that week he had been giving blood, doing blood work, running tests on him, and he hates needles. He's 7 years old, so what 7-year-old doesn't hate needles? So kind of seeing him go through that and knowing that he was going to go to another appointment where he again was going to have to do that. They wanted to get a CT scan. So of course, they got to get the IV for the dye. So that was kind of hard. Thankfully, there was a toy a plant he'd been wanting. He'd won a Venus flytrap. So I told him if he doesn't cry and he does really well, then he would get his Venus flytrap. And he did. He did the CT scan like a trooper. Let him put the IV in, did the scan, got that taken out. And thankfully, the CT scan came back negative. There were no other tumors. There was nothing in the area of his lungs and his stomach. So the cancer screening came back negative. And like I said, the chances were minimal to begin with, but it was super stressful seeing your kid go through that, and the possibility even being mentioned that your kid might have cancer is scary. It's horrifying. Any parent could tell you the slightest thing happens to your kid and you have a heart attack. So that was a very, very stressful week, because it was over the time span of a week that we were going to the doctor, getting these tests, going to the specialist, and the cancer screening was negative, the CT scan was negative, the blood work showed that he had cat scratch fever at one point, but not currently, so that wasn't the infection. So it wasn't cancerous and it wasn't infection, all that they could identify. So they just kind of gave him antibiotics and hoped for the best, and thankfully it reduced in size and it's good now. But yeah, that kind of threw us for a loop. That and obviously the stress of managing a business. So Yeah, we're definitely no stranger to stress, but to put it into perspective, there are people, members and clients I have and friends that are just going through some terrible, terrible things that some I've gone through personally. Some have lost family members recently. Others were sitting and watching family members die, and there was nothing they could do but keep them company. And so some lost family members pretty quickly, and others kind of watched them go slowly recently. Others are having just overwhelming life issues going on, and I think of my job here as being a constant. We're the constant. So when life happens, you're inevitably going to take some time off. Sometimes you might fall off the wagon, but ultimately we want to be here when people are ready to get back on and start focusing on their health again. It's our job to be that constant and to be here for them. So even though we experience stress, we can't shut the place down. We can't just bail. I feel there's too many people depending on me to do that. So I have to learn how to handle these stresses. And some are minor stresses, some are major stresses. But either way, the strategy that I imply is the same. There was a great book I read that changed my life by Dale Carnegie. It's called How to Stop Worrying, How to Stop Living. I think I have that title right. That book changed my entire life. Right around that time that I read the book, I had lost my job, got fired, and that's when Rudy told me to try personal training. I had already been teaching classes. I was good. I was knowledgeable, so he told me to give it a shot. And I gave it a shot, and it changed my life. It was super successful. I was afraid to take the plunge at first. I had so many negative thoughts in my mind, but that book helped me focus on being positive, but planning for the worst. So that is going to be my first tip. My first tip for dealing with stress, especially if it's out of your control, if it's life issues, things that just happen, if it's out of your control, what you want to do is find the worst case scenario. What if the worst case scenario happens? Let's say you lose your job, and the worst case scenario, you lose your apartment. Plan for that. You have family members you can stay with. You have another place you can go. There are resources for you to use. Like, you're not going to die as a result of losing your apartment. So make sure to keep that in perspective. And once you plan for the worst, you're kind of free of it. The reason you're stressing over is because it's an unfinished task. Your brain registers it as an unfinished task, an open-ended possibility. And you create this big old scary scenario in your mind. However, when you plan it out, the worst case scenario, you find the solution, bam, your brain notices you have a completed task, it files it away, and you no longer think about it. It may still pop up in your mind, and I'm not saying just be all willy-nilly and just like, oh, I could care less what happens. No, plan for it, be prepared, but don't stress. There's no need to sweat it. Sweating it is not going to help the situation in any way. It's going to deteriorate your health. Stress is it has very, very bad physical effects. Even though most people are like, stress is mental, it's in your head. No, it has very bad physical effects on you. So you want to avoid stress as much as possible. Undue stress. Second tip I would give, so the first tip is just plan for the worst. Second tip is definitely keep a positive mindset. Try to find the bright side in every dark scenario. And there is bright sides in every scenario. I know in loss of life, it's kind of hard to see that. But you have to remember the good times you had with these individuals. You have to remember that they impacted your life in a way that not even death can take away. Not even death can change. So knowing that people can have that level of impact is is a positive thing. You can have a positive impact on someone's life, so much so that not even your death changes that or takes it away. So definitely try to keep a positive mindset, find the bright side. Obviously, in situations like that, there's going to be a mourning period. You're going to feel horrible, but know that it'll get better. When everything falls apart, when your whole world is caving in, know that you built it once and you can rebuild it again. Now, it may not be the same, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. So, first, plan for the worst, prepare for the worst. Second, keep a positive mindset. My third, I'm not sure if I have a third one for stress. The first two kind of take care of it for me. Let me see. Let me think out loud on video here. Do I have a third tool that I use? Oh, yes, of course I do. Should have been obvious. The third thing I do to de-stress is physical activity. Either physical activity or something you love, like reading a book, listening to music. Just find an escape. Find somewhere where you can just not be stressing over the current situation. Just kind of put it out of your mind for a second. We all need a break. Go see a movie, get a book, listen to an album, go get a massage, or, my preference, get a workout in. Workouts always make me feel better. When my day's not going right, I get in a good workout. I'm exhausted. My body's so worn out that it doesn't have the energy to think about that situation. So it kind of helps put it into perspective. So the third pointer I would be, do something to get your mind off of the stress. Try definitely stress relieving. Yoga is great. Working out is great. Anything that gets you physically active is going to be both beneficial to your health and de-stressing. So that is my third one. So those are my three ideas on how to deal with stress. And for individuals who are watching this, if you recently lost someone or are going through something, it will get better. Stay positive. And if you're a member here, we're with you. You're not alone. If you need anything, you know where we're at. You know where to find us. So stay positive, guys. And everyone else, I hope these tips helped with stress. Sorry if the video was a bit long. I'll try to make them shorter. But I've been seeing a lot of people stressed out lately, so that is why I chose to make the topic stress. And I myself have experienced pretty hectic weeks, so that's why I made this video. And I hope that it benefits someone. If it only benefits one person, then the video is worth it. So if you like what you're seeing, please remember to like and subscribe, share with your friends, because maybe they could see this video and get some help from it. You never know who you're gonna help simply by sharing something. So yeah, pass it along, and I'll see you guys hopefully in a week with my next video. I'll be doing some workout demonstrations and nutritional questions. If you have anything you want, any ideas for videos, feel free to leave them in the comment box or message me. For those of you who have me, that's pretty much it, guys. So thank you for watching, and I hope these helped. Adios.